So hello everybody, I decided to start this sort of game. So we thought we'd use the replay system and show just how bad my good games are. So here I am in my tier 9 Centurion. It's quite a nice matchup. There's only 3 tier 9s on each side. You know, mostly tier 8s and a couple of tier 7s. And so let's speed this up until something happens. So I accidentally shoot there because I accidentally clicked the button, which is a bit of a mistake. But here we go. I like to go into this sort of position. I've learned that this tank kind of does best when it's not like in the people's faces, kind of more of a sniperish tank, or that's how I'm playing it best. Being a bit more of a sniper tank. It's not fully upgraded either at the moment. As you can tell, I don't have the bustle on the back of the turret, I don't have the top gun, which isn't too bad because you get like quite a good rate of fire. But here, if you know XVM, which a lot of you might do, I'm not a very good player. It's getting better, but I'm not very good. And now I see this IS-3 coming down, and I'm like, oh, can I shoot? But I wasn't quite quick enough to get a shot off on the IS-3 there, so it would have just bounced off his front, I think. But there's an IS, and I managed to just clip the side of his turret, which is quite nice. Now I see him moving across, so I'm like, oh, I'll get another shot. Aim a bit too high there, and it bounces off the engine deck, which is a bit annoying. But I managed to get another one into him with a good rate of fire on this not Top Gun. And so I managed to put 472 damage into him. I noticed on the minimap he carried on coming around the corner, and that our T-49 might be in trouble, so between me and the T-49, he gets shut down pretty quickly. So that was 700 damage to a tier 7, so you know, pretty easy pickings there. And so most of the enemy team's been spotted at the moment, and as you can see, there's not that much on this side. A bit worried about that object 416 popping up as I move, but we haven't seen him in a long time, and that SP1C hasn't seen him, so I decide to head off. And so I'm looking down there just in case the top 4 comes out, and there was a Type 69, and I've been spotted, and I was like, who spotted me? Not looking at my minimap until about now, and I realised, oh no, there's that 416. And so he bounces off me. Shall we just see where he bounced off me? He actually managed to bounce off my upper plate, which is quite amazing since I was angled down, so it would have been easier for him to hit. But let's carry on. Quite a good looking tank, isn't it? Let's go back to what I was actually looking at. And so I see the T-69's coming along, and I couldn't quite remember if the T-69 was an autoloader or not, and he was coming towards me, and I was like, what's going on? But then he didn't carry on coming, so I was like, oh, okay. So I shoot him out on the side where there's turret armor gets a bit flatter. I managed to go through him. He bounces off me. Should you see where he bounced off me? He actually aimed for my cupola, and it bounced off the cupola there. I don't know if you can see. Right there. Managed to bounce off the cupola. So that was a bit lucky for me. And so I pull back, and now I know he's only a tier 8, but because I'm not fully upgraded, I don't have the top engine or anything on this. I was like, he might rip me open a little bit. But I see he's moving off towards the lurver, and I'm like, oh, I've been spotted again. And so, back to that 416. Luckily I managed to track him with a not fully aimed shot. With the rate of fire as well, I put another one into him, fully expecting that to have retracked him again. Hoping that the artillery might get a shot. He gets spotted again by the SP1C, and he spots me somehow. Not quite sure how, but... And then I was going to play it a bit more cautiously here, but the SP1C just goes crazy for it. Now, as you saw there, I happened to look over here, and that's because we can see that the IS-3A was last spotted in this location. Now I thought, well, it's unlikely he's still going to be there, but I was a bit worried that just in case he was, because obviously we haven't spotted him again since. So that's where you saw me take a quick look there. And we're going to see a bit more of this IS-3 player in a second. So remember, he was spotted there, what, maybe 3 minutes ago? Let's see how it goes. So me and this SP1C go over, and the SP1C actually didn't need my help at all. And oh look, who's in the same place? And he's statistically, if we look at the statistics here, he is statistically one of their better players. You know, he's a statistically better player than I am. And he's just been sitting there, so I was like, okay, I'll take a punt at him. I'm pretty sure I can go through the side of an IS-3 turret. I know it's an IS-3A, but... And so he's just been sort of sat there, so I was like, oh, is he AFK? What's going on? So has he disconnected? Is he AFK? I don't really know what was going on. So I was planning to go after him, and then I see on the left... Well, I looked to see if I can get a shot on that T-49, but then there's an AMX CDC out in the open, so finish him off. And that IS-3A is still there, so I'm like, oh, is he AFK? And no, that SP1C found out that he's not AFK. And so I aim... I think that shot went a little high and bounced off his engine deck as well, so I went for the tracking shot a bit there. And then I pull back because although he's a tier 8, he has a big gun and I don't have a lot of armour. And I'm a bad player, so I was like, okay, I'll leave him to his devices. Now I see that T-49 was coming down that road and I fully expected him to shoot out the other end, except he didn't. And so, being aware that that IS-3A is still on my right over there, and he's seen me, so I thought, oh, he's going to know where I am. I'm a bit worried about him coming up and putting one into me, but I'm like, oh, let's finish off this T-49, but it turns out I didn't need to worry. And so then I get spotted, probably by the T-49 before he died. I was a bit worried. I was looking for a shot there between the buildings, and then I see this T-71 on the enemy team, and I'm like, can I really be bothered to chase down the T-71 because I don't have the top engine, I'm not very fast anyway. I was like, is it worth it? And I noticed he's a very good player, statistically. I know you can't always go by statistics, but he's a very good player statistically, which is usually a good indicator. And then I see that we still have an artillery in play, and I'm like, oh, well, he might be useful. So I look, I see him, I'm like, oh, do I, don't I, and then I'm like, yeah, I best go try and help out the best I can, because I don't want then this T-71 to kill the artillery, come up, hide in these bushes up here and sort of pick us all off. Again, still worried about the IS-3A, who is somewhere down there still, because we haven't seen him. So he hasn't come up to kill me, which is quite nice. And so here we go, not a fully aimed shot, we're quite lucky. Here I try and go for a tracking shot, doesn't work. So unfortunately I wasn't able to save my artillery, but I tried. And the race is on. So I see the T-71 running away. I've decided to fire on the move here just for luck, really. Wasn't expecting to hit him, but if I did, yay. And so then I notice he's heading up. He's been heading along here. Now I fully expect him to sort of go up this end road and all the way down here, or hide up in these bushes. So I planned to stay along this sort of half ridge line, just in case he decided to cut back down, I'd be able to spot him. And then if he goes up, he's going to get face full of IS-3 and the, is it T-54E1? Yeah, down here. So I was pretty sure that I was more herding this guy into a bit of a wolf pen. And also the lurver is now moving across. If you see on the minimap, he's been moving across as well. So I was like, we've probably got this guy cornered. So I go up to slightly higher ground so I'd be able to see him. There he is. He gets a shot into our IS-3 and then the T-54 E1 shuts him down. At this point we're winning quite well. I've done 2,500 damage, which isn't brilliant for a lot of people, but for me it's pretty good, because I'm a pretty bad player. And then I think, well, where is this IS-3A? He has not been spotted again since we last spotted him about 3 minutes ago. And so that means for about 7 minutes he's been sat in the same place. And I was like, is this guy a really good bot? Or does he have a pretty decent bot program, or just a lucky bot program or something? So I go over here just so I can sort of poke a ridgeline, hopefully, put my half decent turret armor to use, maybe try and use those trees that are in front of me as concealment. But it doesn't look like the RS3 is actually still in the same place, so that's interesting. I was like, I wonder where he's gone. I didn't know if he'd gone all the way south along this bottom part here near the tank traps, and it turns out, nope, he's heading into the town. So let's go get ourselves some IS-3. So I'll take a snapshot, try and clip the back of his tank. Couldn't quite make it. He runs into the rest of the enemy team. So I'll try and get myself there as quick as possible. Obviously, top engine would have helped. So I get to put one into the back of him. He's not even looking at me. Another one into the back of him. I was hoping for a fire. It didn't really work out. But then we get to finish him off. Boom. There we are. 2 kills, 3,000 damage. And then it's just artillery hunt. Now, I'm pretty sure I can't beat that T-54 E1 in a race. Not without my top engine. Plus he probably has I think he has a better top speed than I do. And so I kind of decide to give up. And we spot the artillery. I have a shot on him. And then I just fire in anger at the end there. And so I stupidly didn't have the screenshots from the end of the match on this one, but it wasn't too bad for me. And like you see, 3,075 scene damage at least. I don't think I took any blind. There's a couple of blind shots on the object 416 in the early game, but over 3,000 damage, 2 kills. I was pretty happy with that. And so that is a pretty mediocre game by Bambi. I mean, I guess I'm not new to the game. I've played about 10,000 games now, but I'm new to high tier tanks. This was my first tier 9, I do believe. And I'm still getting to grips with it, so that was a pretty good game for me. Leave your comments down below. I know I probably could have been a bit more aggressive at the start, aimed a few shots a bit better, blah blah blah, but I'm not a unicum. I'm not brilliant at this game. It's like Mr. Joe Average having a half decent game. Anyway, hope you enjoyed.